Hey everybody, it's your boy Captain Hunter coming at you again. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Thank you so much for tuning into the program. Thank you so much for tuning into this podcast. Let's make it do what it's got to do, and you can help me do that best by rating, subscribing, sharing, hitting that thumbs up button, all that kind of good stuff. I would truly appreciate it, your help and support along the way. If you want to support the show in some other method, you can always cash at me. $CPTL Hunter, Venmo, the same thing, CPTL Hunter, all that type of stuff, right? It's all CPTL Hunter. What is the other one? PayPal is the same thing, CPTL Hunter. You can always help support the show, right? So we are going to ask a simple question today. We are going to ask, did I ask you to rate, subscribe, and share? If I didn't, please make sure you do that. Hit that thumbs up. Let's make the show go and grow. So today, we are going to dive into looking at whether some of these there's some reform changes that are going on, and if the pendulum is swinging back. In law enforcement, we've always talked about the pendulum swinging back and forth. 1 minute. Let's take, for example, 9/11. Right? Everybody. Let's go further back to that. Let's go to the riots in Washington. The riots in L.A. Following the Rodney King riots. The Rodney King riots, right? There was law enforcement was polling, very low at that particular time. Fast forward, there's always ebbs and flows, and then fast forward to 9/11. Love for law enforcement, standing by our police officers, backing the blue, all this type of thing spiked. Then we get to some of the incidents in 2014, 15, and 16, in which there's a slew of seeming very controversial killings by police. Sandra Bland, even though she died in police custody, wasn't really at the hands of the police. We get the controversial killing of Philando Castile. We get the Michael Brown incident in 2014. We get the Eric Garner situation in, I believe that was 2014, 2015 in New York City. I Can't Breathe. All these different types of things, right? And law enforcement's polling numbers, as far as their approval ratings, continue to plummet. I think even now that there was a report released, I believe it was by Pew Research, that stated that most of the public service sectors, medicine, police, believing teaching, obviously Congress, are all at all-time lows. Education, the right university systems are all at all-time lows. So there's this ebb and flow that goes on with it. Law enforcement has always understood that. Was one of the first things that came into my training when I was a new and young officer. Is it's going to be go ups and downs and all this kind of stuff. So after the George Floyd protests, we get again these lows, 2020s. But now there's this situation in which it may be going backwards. Now, I'm not talking so much about survey or information or anything like that, but I am talking about this the ebb and flow of crime rates and aggressive, more assertive methods in order to stamp out the crime rates. After the George Floyd incident, many police departments changed rules, who they could stop, when they could stop them, how they would interact, enacted some policies that were probably pretty good, right? Banning chokeholds, different changes to stop and frisk rules and regulations, things along those lines. So we're going to take a look at what Washington D.C. is dealing with, and their mayor. I can't understand why this is still, why this is still a mayor, not a state. I don't understand what's going on down there. Anyway, so this is from Bloomberg, right? This says D.C. mayor proposes rolling back progressive reforms with new crime bill, and this was released fairly recently, right? I don't know the date on this. I just got it in my email, so it's got to be fairly recent. Oh, here it is, October 23rd, 2023. Acting D.C. Police Chief Pamela Smith stands with Mayor Muriel Bowser to the left. I guess that's her right there, Muriel Bowser. And other officials at a news conference at a newly proposed legislation aimed at reducing crime in their district. So they're taking a look at what's going on and they're saying we got to do something about this. So notice the chief, the police chief is black female, and notice the mayor of the city is a black female, right? So they're we got to do something about this. Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser introduced a set of proposals on Monday to dial back progressive reforms that the mayor says have made it more difficult for police to enforce public safety. I have not read this. I started to read it. I got like a minute in and I stopped. So I want to see if they go over what these reforms were that they thought would help to reduce the anxiety between the police and the public. And it has since been a disaster for crime rates. Bowser's proposed legislation would amend a suite of police regulations passed by the D.C. Council in the wake of the 2020 police killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis and the national reckoning that followed. Bowser, a Democrat, says the bill would correct reforms that hamper Metropolitan Police Department enforcement while introducing new tools to target organized retail theft and open-air drug markets, right? So back in the 90s, open-air drug markets, I mean, there was like hand-to-hand. People were just standing out in corners and they would just, dig in their pockets, break out their had crack in their pockets, or they would have it in a baggie or trash bag or someplace secreted very nearby. And this is what's going on again, right? So as police departments engaged in stop and frisk type of methodologies, seeing people behaving suspiciously, digging in their pockets, watching and all this kind of stuff. So when that was scaled back because there were claims of racism, who you stop and why you stop, and you can't stop us because we're in a certain neighborhood, and all this different type of lingo and language, police department said, okay, well, we're going to scale it back, right? We don't want to be accused of doing whatever. Now they recognize this as that there is an organized retail theft, right? I know here where I'm at, there was a big situation going on with stealing of catalytic converters and just always crime thefts concerning cars, right? So these organized they're stealing probably catalytic converters and other parts of vehicles and then selling them and taking them to chop shops, etc. Right? So they got to stop all this, right? And the open air drug markets. Back to the article. We have to reverse the policy environment in the city that, quite frankly, went haywire in the last 3 years, Bowser said. Wow. Went haywire, Bowser told reporters in October during an interview with Bloomberg News, teasing the legislation. This is a Democrat who's recognized that this craziness about scaling police departments back, scaling officers back, has been an epic failure. All you've done is embolden the criminals. This year, the District of Columbia has seen a surge of violent crime. Homicides reached their highest rate in D.C. in more than 20 years. Think about that. D.C., Baltimore, that whole kind of DMV area has been known for the violence, right? And the craziness is that, this is a highly urbanized, highly intellectual, in particular, places for black individuals, right? The whole DMV area, the D.C., Maryland, Virginia area, a lot of black upper class people live and work there. And yet, at the same time, and of course, not to mention this, that's where the seat of government is, not to mention that, but also take a look at, this is the 20 years, it's crazy. 20 years, in the last 20 years, homicides have reached their highest rate in D.C. in more than 20 years in the first 6 months of the year. First 6 months. And the year's not even over yet. Year's not even over yet. Carjackings have more than doubled this year, earning national headlines, including earlier this month when a member of Congress, Texas Representative Henry Cuellar, was held up at gunpoint. Yet, other major cities have posted significant drops in violent crime. And I think that is true. I discussed that with my class. Homicides are falling in Baltimore, Chicago, Philadelphia, New York, and elsewhere. D.C. officials are debating why the city has been an outlier, despite widespread problems with police staffing and recruitment in many major cities. With this bill, the mayor aims to reverse some of the police reforms that are hurting our recruiting efforts, as the size of the department has shrunk to its lowest level in half a century. Not good at all. Some of the mayor's proposed counter reforms clarify amend parts of the Comprehensive Policing and Justice Amendment Act, a progressive reform package passed by the city in December that has emerged as a lightning rod for House Republicans, who succeeded in torpedoing a broader council revision of the city's criminal code earlier this year. Bowser's new bill, dubbed Addressing Crime Trends Now, or ACT Now, would limit the circumstances under which information about officer disciplinary actions is revealed to the public, for example. What does that have to do with crime rates? Oh my God. See, this is where it gets all crazy, right? And I know that she's a smart lady, and I'm sure that they've been surrounded by other individuals, and they probably had some input from police professionals and police experts. But what does limiting the circumstances of disciplinary records of police officers who act inappropriately, presumably after they've had internal affairs, investigations, and all this, right? Police officers are just scared, and they're taking this out on individuals. I can't understand why this is part of the bill. I'm thinking, and I didn't read this far, I'm thinking this would be about stop and frisk. This would be about, approaching people for suspicion of open air drug dealing. This is what I'm thinking. No, they want to talk about disciplinary records. Oh my God. The mayor's bill would also codify changes issued by the council this summer to allow police car chases in some circumstances, right? Probably. Now that I can see, right? I mean, if people just know they don't have to stop, why would you stop, right? They just drive away. Bowser's administration officials characterize some provisions passed since 2020 as an overcorrection. You think? You think? DC law regards even incidental police contact with a subject's neck as a serious use of force, for example, which creates a hazard for police in the normal business of law enforcement, they said. Current law also requires police officers to write up incidents reports before reviewing body-worn camera footage, even in non-violent incidents, which can expose officers testifying in court to scrutiny based on small inconsistencies about details between a written report and video footage. That has been a very, very common theme about, should officers be allowed to view their body cam footage before writing their reports. It's been a hotly contested debate. Science is on both sides as far as memory. What do you recall? Things along those lines. I don't know what my opinion is. I do know that there's science on both sides. I think that they should be allowed. I mean, if I'm going to say it, if I had to choose a side, I would be in favor of officers being allowed to view their body cam footage. And only their body cam footage, not the whole incident, right? If you got 5 other officers there, let's take a look at what you did, what you saw, and you write your report based on what you did, what you saw, and what you were under the impression of, right? Officers said on Monday that the goal is not to totally undo the DC Council's progressive priorities, but to swing the pendulum back in the other direction. Remember? I just said that, swinging the pendulum. Some of the changes that were made just don't match the daily practice of safe and effective policing, whether that's around incidental contact you can make with a person or how officers can use their body cam footage to write reports, or whether police are allowed to safely chase a criminal who's right in front of them. I'm assuming that's for car chases. Right? Oh yeah, I love police car chases, right? Yeah, this is crazy. We all knew this was coming. The mayor described several new suggested rules as plain common sense, but they could be hard to enforce. The bill would make it illegal for anyone over 16 to wear a mask in public area or demonstration with the intent of engaging in criminal activity. And it would restore authority to the police chief to declare a physical area as a drug-free zone in order to restrict loitering. Yeah. A policy placed from 1996 to 2014, even as the city has moved in recent years to decriminalize cannabis use. That's great, but we still have a fentanyl problem, right? Still, another provision of the bill targets organized retail crime, making it felony to shoplift more than $1,000 in merchandise or to steal 10 or more items worth at least $250 over a 30-day period, right? Just going in here, not paying for stuff. You got security guards not approaching people and all this kind of, not approaching people, not chasing people, not tackling people. And so now you got to do something about it. The bill also spells out first-degree penalties for fencing stolen goods or engaging in return fraud. Obviously, this is big going on in D.C. D.C. officials strove to distinguish between shoplifting a bag of chips and sweeping whole sections of high-dollar goods such as deodorant or detergent. The bill would direct the mayor's office to study the decriminalization of street vending under the D.C. Council's Street Vendor Advancement Amendment Act. Another progressive legislation formed to reduce barriers and fines for informal street vendors who sell fruit, crafts, bottled water, and in some cases stolen retail goods. So in order to crack down this street vending situation that they got going down there and make sure that everything that they have has actually been legitimately gained, or everything that is being sold has been legitimately gained, you have to go in there and make sure that we are doing a better job with stopping criminals who are stealing it from stores in the first place. People in our city are sick and tired of it, Bowser said at a press conference on Monday, referring to retail theft. People want great businesses in their neighborhoods. They want to go to stores and restaurants. They don't want to have to worry about all these businesses being robbed repeatedly and brazenly. Not to mention, they don't want to have to worry about being robbed at gunpoint or open-air drug markets and all this kind of thing. The question is why has D.C. been an outlier, right? Homicides in particular, we don't know. Crime has been down overall. Maybe I can pull that up. Let's see if I can pull that up. Yes, so I can pull that up. So crime has been down as far as major crimes, right? This is FBI releases 2022 crime in the nation statistics. This is from October 16th, 2023 from the FBI. Right, here's the bullet points right here. The FBI's crime statistics estimates for 2022 show that national violent crime decreased an estimated 1.7%. Not a big deal, but crime down is crime down compared to 2020 estimates. Murder and non-negligent manslaughter recorded a 22 estimated nationwide decrease of 6.1%. Pretty big. 2022, the estimated number of offenses in revised rape category saw an estimated 5.4 decrease. Aggravated assault decreased, estimated 1.1%. Robbery showed an estimated decrease of 1.3 nationally. So nationally, and in many of the places, as far as Chicago, New York, or was there other? Right, homicides are falling in Baltimore, Chicago, Philadelphia, and New York, and elsewhere. So why has DC been an outlier as far as reaching highest rates in 20 years, and that was in the first 6 months, which is absolutely nuts. So we can see the FBI says that crime's down. So why is that DC being an outlier? So in order to confront those things, they want to make some changes. I can't see, giving into the whole releasing of disciplinary records. I can't see that. So let's go on to the second story here that I want to talk about. Right, hate crimes in the U.S. These are the locations where they're most commonly reported. Again, very recent story from USA Today. Last week, the Justice Department opened a federal hate crimes investigation into what led to the stabbing death of 6-year-old Wadea Al-Fayyoumi and the serious injuries to his mother, Hanan Shaneen, in Illinois. Authorities linked the stabbing death and the wounding of the boy's mother to the war between Israel and Hamas. Of course, we knew that was going to spark up, right? Attorney General Merrick Garland warned that the incident would raise fears among Muslim, Arab, and Palestinian communities about hate-fueled violence, but he said the department would use every single authority at our disposal to bring justice to those who perpetrate illegal acts of hate. Recently released data from the FBI shows that the reported number of hate crimes motivated by bias against race, religion, or sexual orientation for some groups of people were on the rise since 2020. Right, and this shows what I just read there from the FBI. Murders and rapes dropped in 2022. Most hate crimes were targeted at the Black or Jewish individuals. Really, you think? Are hate crimes on the rise? Law enforcement agencies reported 11,643 incidents of hate crimes in 2022, motivated by bias against race, religion, or sexual orientation, according to the FBI. While the number of hate crimes incidents is up 7% from 2021, the spike in incidents is partially due to more law enforcement agencies reporting their data. So we don't actually know if it's up, right? It's just that more law enforcement agencies are actually reporting, whereas they did not before. And that's always been the problem with hate crime data. Number one is how do they define hate crime? And number two, all agencies don't don't participate and don't. All agencies just don't participate. There are 18,000 police departments. By police departments, I mean police departments of all sizes, from the size of NYPD with 30,000 officers to LAPD to all the way down to 1 or 2 sheriff's departments, all different ranges and sizes, 50 different states, 18,000 different policies and procedures, 18,000 presumably different Sydney ordinances, etc. So these things are problematic, and so we don't actually get an accurate picture as to what's going on. So more agencies reporting, maybe it's just evening out. We just don't know. Incidents of crimes motivated by religion rose by 2044. Within the country's 10 largest cities, the number of reported hate crimes rose even more, 22% from 2021 to 2022, making last year the second constructive year they hit their record high. Now, the 10 largest cities, I would imagine, have got to be reporting hate crimes. I can't say that for sure, but they've always had to been reporting it. Anti-black and anti-Jewish hate crimes were more commonly reported type of bias. Hate crime facts, hate crime in the big cities hit record high for second year in a row. Where are hate crimes taking place? More than 3,000 hate crimes took place in home, residence, and common location. The second most common location was highway, road, alley, street incidences, right? Being in your home or being out on the street. Is this really news? Homes were a commonly reported location, right? So being attacked in your home, maybe, where you're cutting your grass or something like that, right? The next thing you know, you're walking down the street and someone just spits on you or throws rocks at you or whatever, right? What to know about hate crime data? There are more than 18,000. I didn't even read this, but here we go. 18,000 law enforcement agencies in the U.S., and it's not mandatory for state, local, and tribal agencies to submit data on hate crimes. In 2022, 14,600 of the 18,000 participating law enforcement agencies submitted data in the country that year. That's a 77% participation rate. That's 2022, right? I had not read this article this far, so again, here's verification of what I just said. The percentage of agencies contributing hate crimes data was 93% in 2022. The rate of participation decreased to 65% in 2021. Some people stopped participating. The FBI said, attributing the decline to a nationwide transition to a different reporting system. That means it's impossible to draw any meaningful conclusions about hate crime trends over year by year, according to the FBI. Brian Levine, director of the Center for the Study of Hate Crime and Extremism at the California State University, San Bernardino, said the FBI's 2021 hate crime data is not representative of the actual hate crime trend in the U.S., which was up in 2021. The FBI's hate crime data release is so severely hampered by the decline in participating agencies. Yeah, this is a problem. According to the FBI, law enforcement agencies determine if an incident is a hate crime by the following. The responding officer identifies if there is indication of bias. So in other words, if you're a Jewish couple walking down the street, somebody starts throwing rocks at you, unless they say in particular that we're doing this because you're Jewish, the police officer who responds and takes the individual's report may not have the necessary knowledge and may refuse to report it as a hate crime. Or they may report it as a hate crime, right? Because if they threw rocks only at you, the Jewish couple, and nobody else on the street, was it a hate crime or not? It's really up to the officer's discretion. A second-level officer reviews the data and decides whether to report the incident as a hate crime. And that's it for that. So let me know your thoughts, your opinions about this. Are hate crimes on the rise? And what's going on with DC and their numbers there? Let me know your thoughts, your opinions in the comments below. Hit that rate, subscribe, and share button. Much love and peace.